Hello, this is Cotton Soups, and welcome back to another Lumion Legacy HTUC video. And today's video is suggested by another viewer, and that is of course on Obsidrugon. Obsidrugon, in my opinion, has been one of the best walls as of right now. That is of course rising. And of course, Obsidrugon has played a very important role throughout almost all metagames. So this video is on how to use and counter Obsidrugon, from sets, counters, and checks, to the many roles it can play to the team, and also the many weaknesses, resistances, and as well as sets it can run. This video is everything you need to know on how to use and counter Obsidrugon. Alright, so the first thing you should know about Obsidrugon is the role that Obsidrugon plays. Basically, you're gonna know this because of its base stats. The first thing you should know about Obsidrugon is that you basically do not want to take any range attacking hits, and you of course do not want to use any range attacking moves of your own. 65 and 67 are of course really low numbers in the base stat department, and its speed does not really help it either, but its speed here kinda does let it outspeed some stuff, but not too important. So yeah, but it does have some good melee attack that you should be using on any Obsidrugon. Of course, with its coverage that I'll be talking about later is really important. This melee attack stat will let you hit a lot harder than you should be hitting. So yeah, and of course the best things about Obsidrugon is the HP, energy, and melee defense. This melee defense is contending on one of the highest melee defenses in the game, and of course its HP stat is pretty high of 99, letting it be a lot more tankier, and 99 energy of course being really high, which does let it go above 250 and will let Obsidrugon to throw out a lot of moves. So with that out of the way, what role does Obsidrugon play? This question is pretty easy to answer by now, and Obsidrugon is the melee wall with the potential to set up. Obviously, Obsidrugon is not going to be wanting to take any ranged hits, so pair it up with some ranged walls and something to take really well against the range attackers. So yeah, and with the potential to set up, Obsidrugon can massively do a lot of damage, or have the potential to do a lot of damage. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'll be talking about Obsidrugon's weaknesses, resistances, so let's get along with that. Obsidrugon's typing of Pure Ancient is actually one of the better single typings in the game defensively. It has some good 3 weaknesses to Light Metal Ancient. Light types mainly only stuff like Elophage with Flash and Flee, Luminami, and I think the Moray 2 as well are basically the only common light type move users in the entire game as of right now. Metal types like Valkyrie, Luminami, Tyrex, Stratosaur, and of course some other stuff as well is some things you should be worrying about, and other ancient types like Joltooth, Zulang, and other Obsidrugons are some stuff you should take into consideration. However, Obsidrugon does have some good 5 resistances to Fire, Water, Plant, Electric, and Spirit. Thanks to this, Obsidrugon can resist a lot of Fire type moves coming from Lumions like Chartiki, Pyrolin, and Infernix, stuff like that. Water type moves coming from stuff like Barblast, Luminami, as well as some C.B.Os, which is obviously pretty good. Plant type moves coming from stuff like Tatab, which is mainly really important. Also Maomrek, that's also pretty good as well. Electric type moves coming from stuff like Joltooth, Zulang, like I said earlier, but I wouldn't really recommend that matchup a lot. You can also try matching up against Elophage, stuff like that. And Spirit type moves coming from stuff like Harvestect, which is really common right now, and as well as stuff like Revenine 2 being also really common, and Your Soul. So with that out of the way, I'll be talking about Obsidrugon's sets, so let's get along with that. Alright, so the first and only set I'll be recommending is the General Tank set with the ability Resilience. Resilience is basically the best ability because it helps your matchups against other melee wall breakers from stuff like Tatab, Volkoloa, C.B.O, and some other stuff. That's obviously pretty great, and it does let you fend off some melee hit wall breakers that can hit you super effectively, and usually you die, but because of your resilience ability, it does let you boost your melee defense enough so you have an even matchup if you do want to swap. And of course, the General Tank is generally better than the offensive set. As of right now, Obsidrugon hits a lot better with the defensive set. It has more resistances and a lot better matchups with melee wall breakers. In the moveset of choice, basically Beast Slumber is in less demand now because they're generally Obsidrugon kind of wants to run Drudge in 3 moves. Those 3 moves can be comprised of Body Crash, Drudges, and as well as Mega Chomps, Primal Slashes, Earthquakes, stuff like that. but generally I wouldn't want to run Earthquake unless you want to hit fire types like Pyrolin and other because Body Crash does hit the metal types like Tyrex. It helps your matchups with there a lot better, and it can catch some metal types like Valkyrie and Oxydrake on the swap. And the personality will be very robust, clumsy, sluggish, or brownie robust, very clumsy. If you want to do more damage, you know the personality. If you want to tank more and do a lot more damage with Body Crash, you basically know what to do. And the item of choice will be Health Amulet. Obviously you can run some other items, but generally Health Amulet's the best because Dredge and 3 attacks with Health Amulet's pretty good. You can tank a lot of hits, you can have recovery, and it kind of compromises with not running Body Crash. Not Body Crash, but the Slumber. Heavy Armor is basically good if you want to run Body Crash or if you don't. And Mysterious Dust is so we can get rid of that sleep paralysis, which is basically pretty good if you do want to run Beast Slumber. And the TPs of choice, 16 speed with Sluggish, or rather not Sluggish. Without Sluggish, will let us outspeed a 200 nimble. I'm pretty sure it's a nimble speed Valkyrie with a +1 with the Dredge. So yeah, that's obviously pretty great. And 72 melee attack is basically leftovers. You can invest more into speed if you do want to speed some other stuff, but generally I wouldn't really recommend it. 200 melee defense, 200 HP is self-explanatory. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'll be talking about counters and checks as well as its teammates, so let's get along with that. So the defensive counters and checks to Obsidrugon is basically very simple. You want to run some melee invested stuff like Nemare, Luminami, Stratosaur, and Barblast. Barblast is an iffy situation if you do want to 1v1 it, because you do resist Barblast's Water Bomb, but however Barblast does resist your Body Crash, and it's of course a melee tank. So yeah, it's basically a stall match where Barblast is probably going to win with high explosive, so generally do not take that matchup. But other stuff like Nemare and Luminami are move dependent. If you want to run Mega Chomp, then run Mega Chomp for these guys. But generally, if you do not run Mega Chomp, these guys will be destroying you no matter what. And Stratosaur, with no matter what move you have, at the most your Body Crash will be doing a 3-hit KO on a Stratosaur. So yeah, that's not even counting the very robust or the robust variants. And some other stuff that you can run, some offensive stuff, is Zulong, Nemare, Protogon, and Volcaloa. These guys are pretty good because they can hit Obsidrugon super effectively. Nemare basically resists all your moves or immune to most of your moves other than Mega Chomp, so watch out for that. Volcaloa, like I said earlier, it can have a good matchup against Obsidrugon, but Obsidrugon wins the 1v1. Basically, you want to chip Obsidrugon down so Volcaloa will have a better matchup. Protogon, Zulong basically have their super effective moves, and generally you do want to run range attackers that will hit Obsidrugon super effectively, that are generally faster than Obsidrugon. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'll be talking about Obsidrugon's teammates that you can run, so you can have a lot better experiences with Obsidrugon. So let's get along with that. Some offensive teammates you can run with Obsidrugon is pretty simple. You want to run stuff like Zulong, Teclipse, Mocho, and Metatone. Obviously, there are a lot more options you can run, stuff like Joltooths, electric types generally, they're pretty good as well, but these guys are the best in my opinion. Mocho can hit Nemare with Deep Freeze, hit Luminami with Deep Freeze, and it can generally hit Barblast with Deep Freeze as well, and it can threaten out Stratosaur with a Martial Shell boosted Boom Bash. So yeah, if you want to run something that can mostly deal with all of your defensive counters, then run Mocho. However, Eclipse is also pretty good because it does help you with your light immunity, and it does do really well against stuff like Nemare and Luminami. And Zulong is also pretty good here as well because it can deal with Luminami, Barblast, Nemare, and Stratosaur as long as it gets safely in the battle. Same thing for Metatode, but generally it does not do really well against Luminami and Barblast, but generally it does pretty good against the air types. So yeah, and some other stuff you can be running, some defensive teammates for Obsidrugon is basically a lot. You can run a lot of these walls that I mentioned here and some other stuff that I mentioned previously. Stratosaur is obviously pretty good. It can deal with your Ancient Weakness and Tyrex, Ileguana, Chartiki, and Malmerk. Some good plant types, or rather some good metal types that have some pretty comfortable matchups against many of the light types. Ileguana does have some good comfortable matchups against stuff like Luminami, as well as Maomerc Chartiki having some good matchups against Luminami, like I said earlier, and Falcrays as well, and Eliphages, so that's pretty good. Stratosaur is mainly here for helping Obsidrugon with its weaknesses. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'll be talking about the end of the video, my thoughts on Obsidrugon, so let's get along with that. So yeah, at the end of the video, I guess Obsidrugon is a really good Lumion. Basically, Obsidrugon has been one of the better walls inside of the entire game. Of course, I said that in the beginning, but I cannot stress this enough. If you want to run something easy, if you want to run something offensive, that can be a really good defensive Lumion while having some good offensive paralysis, then Obsidrugon is basically your best bet on the melee side. So with that out of the way, like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I have some other guides on some other Lumions that you should be checking out, like stuff like how to use and counter Ursols, Bonekis, Shachis, Wintrixes, Valkyries, Pyrolins, Sinogres, and a bunch of other stuff you should be checking out. So yeah, with that out of the way, just remember I do have a Discord and Zulong is still a dumpster fire.